If you're a business owner and you're struggling to work on the right things and you're constantly being pulled left to right by the tide of notifications and messages that you get from clients, leads and staff members alike, then I got a super quick short video for you today about how to create a weekly template that ensures you're working on the right things, and then a daily schedule just to take back that control, because you're a business owner, you have control over your time, so exercise it. The reason I'm sharing this today is I released a 40-minute deep dive version of this video to our Renegade community. If you don't know what that is, that's a private community just for people who have bought our books. You buy the book, you get the most unbelievable free gift ever, which consists of 40 plus hours of training, plus access to our private community full of people who are trying to achieve the same thing, which is to make more money by selling at higher prices to better clients. Very simple. Anyway, this is our well-fed business weekly template and daily planning system. It's really simple. I do this on a digital calendar first, but I'm going to draw because it's a little bit more fun for me. But we do this on Google Calendar more specifically. The first thing I want you to do is pull up your calendar and to put in your weekly anchors. Weekly anchors are things that happen every single day at the same time, every single day. So for example, I know that I have a meeting at 9 a.m. every single day of the week. I know I have lunch at say 12 every day of the week, and I have the gym at 1 every single day of the week. I want you to just pause the video, put in your weekly anchors, and then when you come back, I want you to commit to a shutdown time. Now, shutdown is when you commit to, right, I'm doing no more work. This is the end of my work day, but I'm going to spend 15 minutes reviewing the work I've done and scheduling anything that I've missed for the next day. For this example, I will put in shutdown at 5 p.m. But we both know it's not that. So once you've got your weekly anchors in, it's now time to put your daily anchors in. So things that happen on the same day each week, but it doesn't happen on every day of the week. So for example, I have on Mondays I have a client call at 11. I always have client calls at 11. On Tuesday I have another client call, but this time it's at 2. On Wednesdays at 11 I have a group call. On Thursdays I'm pretty free, and then on Fridays I know I'm really busy. I've got one-to-ones with staff 10 and 11, and then I record our podcast at 2. So they're my daily anchors. So I've got my weekly anchors in there and my daily anchors. Now what I want you to do is to identify something we call deep work zones. If you're familiar with Cal Newport's work, things will be starting to make sense for you. Deep work zones should be no less than an hour, really no longer than 2 hours without having a break, and you shouldn't really have more than say 4 hours in a day. It's quite that simple. So I just want you to go through and find the times in your calendar where you can have at least an hour and no more than 2 hours and no more than 4 hours a day for you to focus on proper work. I'll explain more in a minute. Just find the time in your calendar and then we'll explain it. In this example, every single day, and this is by design, 7 till 9 o'clock, I've got a nice 2 hour chunk of deep work every single day. On Mondays, I've then got 2 hours here that I can finish with. I could push it to 3 with a break in between, but I'm not going to do that. I've got another 2 hours here on Tuesday, so I'm going to use that. I've got another 2 hours here on Wednesday, so I'm going to use that. On Thursday, again, I've got another 2 hours here, so I'm going to use that. And again on Friday. Wicked. So now I've identified at the beginning and at the end of every single day, I've got 2 hours set aside for deep work. Now what deep work is, it tends to be cognitively demanding work. Typically this is project-based work. When you're working on projects to move the business forward, it can be really difficult client work, it can be studying, it can be trying to develop a new skill. a good rule of thumb is if it's very cognitively demanding, you can't perform it whilst distracted, you need to be dialed in and focused. That constitutes deep work. So we've now found the time every single day where you're going to engage in that type of work, the really difficult stuff. We've given ourselves 2 hours at the start and at the end of every day, which is a really nice cadence and a complete coincidence because this isn't my exact working week, to be honest with you. This is just an example. So once we've got the deep work zones identified, we've now squared off and protected some time in your calendar for you to get deep work done. I want you to communicate this with clients and staff members alike, that between 7 and 9 I'm unavailable, and between 3 and 5 I'm unavailable. I'm getting deep work done, all notifications are turned off, I'm working on these specific set of projects each day. So now we need to just identify and fill in the gaps with something called shallow zones. Shallow zones are not cognitively demanding. They tend to be quite logistical, admin style tasks. If you can perform it whilst heavily distracted with TV in a room with your partner, with music blasting, you can do it with one eye shut. That is shallow work. But what is shallow work to me may be deep work to you. What is deep work to me may be shallow work to you. There's no hard and fast rule as to exactly what is deep work and shallow work. It's very personal. There are some things that you can probably perform whilst heavily distracted that I couldn't even dream of doing whilst fully concentrated. So we just fill in the gaps with shallow work. So I've got 2 hours there, I've got a big 2 hour block here, I've got an hour here, and I've got an hour here, I've got 2 hours here and an hour here, and then I've got no time for shallow work on Friday. Interesting. So now this has forced me to get real with my time. Shallow work tends to be made up of repeating tasks. It tends to be made up of, recurring responsibilities. It tends to be made up of the little post-it notes that your employees fire at you. Can you quickly do this for me, please? Can you quickly help me out with this, please? Or clients requesting various materials that your team can't handle for you. That tends to be the bulk of shallow work. And through going through this exercise here, I realized that I've got no time for any shallow work on Friday whatsoever. So now I need to decide, right, do I have things that I need to do every single Friday in terms of my recurring tasks? And if the answer is yes, then you probably need to cut an hour of your deep work time and add in an hour of shallow work. If you need longer than an hour, then you may need to get rid of that afternoon deep work altogether, and you finish the day with 2 hours of shallow work. Putting your time down like this really forces you to get real with yourself, and it also enforces time constraints, because this is our weekly template. Now, what we do at the end of each day in shutdown is we schedule the next day with actual tasks. So when we wake up, we know exactly what we're working on. There's no two ways about it. We know exactly what we're working on, and we can just get on with it. So for example, on a Sunday, I'll sit down and I will look at my Monday and I'll be like, right, I've got 2 hours of deep work in the morning. What am I going to work on? Typically, this is whatever, project we're working on that's taking us towards our goals and targets. It's quite that simple. An example of that is our referral system. So I'll just write down RS. So I'm going to work on the referral system that we're trying to build for 2 hours in the morning. That's my deep work. I've then got 2 hours of shallow work that I need to schedule some tasks into. This is very simple because I already have a list of shit that I need to be doing on a repeating, predictable basis. It's that simple for me. I recommend you all perhaps pause this video, grab a pen and paper and write down every repeating task that you have and stick it in a task manager. I use Google Calendar for my digital calendar, and I use Google Tasks to manage all my tasks. I have a list in there called repeating tasks, which is all of my base responsibilities. I then have another list called requests, which are things that other people have asked me to do. The reason I like Google Tasks and Google Calendar, even though neither of them are perfect, especially Google Tasks isn't perfect, it posts directly to my calendar and it's all integrated. So it's one less thing for me to think about. I can then drag these tasks from the taskbar into my calendar, into these shallow and deep work zones that are templated on my Google Calendar. It's quite that simple. So for example, I know that every single day I need to write a daily email, a daily marketing email. So I'm going to do that at 10. I also know that I'm going to need a short walk, having worked for that long, having a meeting. So I'm going to go for a quick walk here because I know writing my daily email takes me half an hour to 45 minutes. That leaves me 30 minutes to 15 minutes to go for a walk, ready for my client meeting, fresh with ideas. After this, I also know I've got to review cash flow. So that's meant to be money. That's a terrible money sign. So I know I've got to review cash flow. That only takes 10 minutes to print out, to run a report looking at the daily cash flow and the cash flow over the weekend. I know I've got to go on the membership site to deal with clients. That usually takes 20 minutes. So we're up to half an hour worth of work here, leaving me with 30 minutes more. I'm now struggling to remember other recurring tasks that I've got. Let me pull it up. There we go, recurring tasks. See, this stuff is so brain dead. It's so like disengaging and just happens automatically that I forget. I've got to check and reply to emails. That's an obvious one. And then that's taken up all of my shallow work time. Then in the deep work in the afternoon, I've worked on the project, so I could work on the project again. But I do have some repeating tasks that take a lot of focus, that really require me to dial in and think about it. And for me, that's pipeline work. So I want to spend an hour working our sales pipeline, sending messages, making sure that our sales rep are doing things properly. This for me is very cognitively demanding, so I always schedule it in deep work zones, and then for the remaining hour I do the project stuff again. And then I go into shutdown at the end of my Monday, having gone through that motion, and I plan all of my Tuesday. It's quite that simple. Anything that I don't get done on the Monday, if I can't give it to someone else to do, I then just reschedule for the next day on Tuesday. And vice versa, go through all of Tuesday, get to shutdown, I schedule Wednesday, go through all of Wednesday, review what I've done, review what needs doing, move things for Thursday, schedule the rest of my Thursday. Here we go. Now, when you first implement this, it's going to take you at least a week, if not 2 weeks, to really get this right, to find how many hours of deep work you can actually do, to find how many hours of deep work you should be doing so you don't lose all of your responsibilities. But once you've cracked it, I haven't found a more productive system, to be perfectly honest. It's not over the top. It's literally just Google Calendar, create a template for when you're going to be working on deep work zones. Make sure you've always got all your anchors in there, and then at the end of each day, schedule your deep work, schedule your shallow work. This really focuses you on working on what is most important. And whether I've taught this to our renegades or people inside core control or elite, everyone always feels like they've got far more control over their day, which I feel like is the real ultimate goal here. Even though the real ultimate goal should be ensuring that you're working on the right type of things, because that's the easiest way to move the business forward. If you're if you're a business owner of quite a large company, you want to be seeing a lot more purple than green. A lot more purple than green. Because the nice thing about any shallow work that you're doing, that can often be the easiest thing for you to delegate, delete, automate, give to someone else. It's an automatic list. You just pull up your calendar and this is the shit I work on. You sit down with someone, they analyse it for you, and they go, well, Dave should be doing that in HR, and Samantha should be doing that in finance. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. Anyway, if you want to join us inside the Renegades and get the full 40-minute deep dive explaining some more of the theory and whatnot behind this, there's a link in the description below or wherever this video is going for you to buy a copy of our book, M82. It's a sales book about how to reliably, predictably and relentlessly attract the right sort of clients, and how to sell to them at rates, fees and prices that make it very worth your while. There's a link for that below. You get the most unbelievable free gift ever with that, which is 40 plus hours of free training. I've been Connor Benham. I run Well Fed Business with the Evil Genius. Cheers. See you later.